Hello everyone and welcome to the preview show presented by FedEx. I'm your host Jonathan Merryman here with Marty Snider of NBCSN. Marty, let's talk a little bit about Kevin Harvick and the move on Kyle Busch. Those guys have a little bit of a checkered past together, don't really like each other. Fair or foul by Harvick?
Well, I'll go with what Kyle Busch said, and I think it's fair, the move that Kevin Harvick made, because Kyle Busch was very clear, hey, I knew he could make that move, and Kyle didn't complain that much about it. The one thing that struck me, Jonathan, after the race is the immense respect between Kyle and Kevin.
I knew that I needed to take my opportunity and felt like I needed to try to get him up out of the groove, and I got him up out of the groove and was able to get by. How you race is how you get raced, so it's fine.
Let's talk about the big three right now. Obviously, those organizations as well, running very well with their three drivers. What is making them so good in your opinion? Why are they up front winning stages every single week?
To me, the simple answer is those are the best drivers and those are the best crew chiefs involved in the sport right now. And they've really separated themselves from everybody else. The more they win, the more bonus points they get, the more playoff points they're going to get. So that's the big key to me, is that they need those playoff points and they want to get more than the other guys. So when Kevin Harvick wins, now that makes Kyle Busch, that makes Martin Truex Jr. want to go out and win, because they're all going after that regular season championship.
Let's talk about Hendrick Motorsports really quick as well. All of their drivers in the top 15 finishing at New Hampshire. And Chase Elliott shows speed, wins a stage, his first stage win since last year. So that's a big deal.
Pretty big deal for Hendrick Motorsports. The big question I have is, can it stay? And the answer is, I'm not quite sure it's going to. I talked to all of the Hendrick drivers, and they all said, listen, we're good at New Hampshire because we've been good at short tracks all year long. I think the big test for Hendrick Motorsports, these big fast racetracks, like this weekend at Pocono, can they be good at the mile-and-a-half track? So that's where they've really suffered this year, and that's where they've really honestly been behind a little bit.
All right, what about Pocono? What changes in the 2 months that we raced there in June and now late July that we're going back?
To be honest, not much. And I talked to Todd Gordon about this. He said, you know, in the 8 weeks between, nothing really changes. This is not a racetrack that changes a ton. The surface doesn't change a lot. So you're going to kind of see the same guys running up front, in my opinion. And the development of cars is going to be something that's interesting. That's always the telltale to me between the two Pocono races. Who's developed their cars a little bit more? You'll see that show up this weekend. But to me, I don't think much changes in the racetrack itself between the 8 weeks.
When I think about Pocono, I think about strategy. When I think about strategy, I think about Paul Wolfe. He's a gambler. Is this a racetrack where those guys who haven't won or those bubble drivers can maybe gamble with their crew chiefs a little bit and pull something out here?
And I think that's absolutely what a lot of people are thinking, is that they'll try to maybe play a little bit of strategy, because Pocono is a racetrack where the strategy is wide open. Yes, we always talk about how tough this racetrack is. You've got the three very different corners, the very long front stretch, so it's a very difficult racetrack to manage setup-wise for the crew chiefs, but it's also difficult from the strategy standpoint as well. Sometimes you can pit a little bit earlier, get off sequence a little bit, get on tires a little bit quicker than everybody else, and that can make a difference. So strategy will be a massive part of what happens on Sunday. And yes, if you're a guy like Paul Wolfe, or, you know, Paul Wolfe may not be a great example. If you're a team like, if you're like Brian Patty and Ricky Stenhouse, maybe you do some things completely off strategy from everybody else to put yourself in a position to win this race.
All right, who are you picking to win the whole thing?
You know, it's funny. I want to go with someone off the board a little bit, like a Denny Hamlin or a Brad Keselowski or someone like that. But to me, it's so hard to go against the big three. So I'm going to go with Kyle Busch this weekend. I think he's a little bit upset about what happened last weekend in New Hampshire. When he drives that way, I think they drive a little bit with a little bit more purpose, and they have been one of the best cars at Pocono for the last several years. So I'm going to go with Kyle Busch this week.
Stole my pick. I'll take TRUEX. I'm not going to vary away from the big three. I think you got good odds either way you go there. But now where you can see if we're right or we're wrong this weekend, it's the Gander Outdoors 400 Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBCSN. We appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next week as we head to the road course in New York, Watkins Glen.